Call to order, public comment period. Any members of the public like to make a comment about something not on the agenda? Hi, Jim.
Just a question, Carolyn. Where is the dump site on Upper Notch Road?
It is when it's right, but so it's just past the point where Lower Notch turns to the Notch and then it intersects with Upper Notch. There's that intersection right there.
Okay.
Just that beginning part of Upper Notch. There's a series of three different pull-offs. And it's just all those pull-offs there.
Right, where they've been dumping for a long time. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
I know the sheriff's office had a camera set up for a while there. And they did catch one. The guy was legit and he contacted them, so it works.
Yeah, the hope is that they're going to start patrolling there and doing some game camps and stuff starting soon. Very soon, actually, now that the snow's melted.
Cool. I have a place that goes, a road that goes through my property for government use, and that's a horror spot too, but they take care of it. As soon as I call, they send somebody up right away. And they did go through the refuse 2 years ago, and they found out person left their name and address on prescription bottles, so they were able to take care of that situation. And that was somebody from way out in Addison too. So.
Yeah. Sergeant Elmore told me that he has been going through and looking for identifying information, but whoever's doing it knows not to throw mail or prescription bottles.
But some of them aren't too bad. What also happens though, I don't want to take up too much of your time. What also happens is some older person will pay somebody to take their garbage to the dump. And instead of going to the dump, they take the money and dump the garbage, So that happens too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm worried about the scope of the problem, right? That even if we got it to stop, how do we clean it? I mean, it's a big problem, right? And I don't have a lot of answers for it, but I think we'll be talking about that more later in the meeting. But yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll mute myself.
Thank you. Okay. Any additional items to the agenda? Okay. And review and approve the minutes of March 1st. Everyone approved? Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
A motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
I do.
Great.
I did agree. So I don't feel
That's okay. Minutes are approved. Any correspondence that we had of note? I always am so bad at remembering correspondence. We don't have our mailbox going like usual. It's where we normally sort of get some things. But that should be good. Okay, conservation membership. I'd like to welcome Helen Young. Helen, do you want to say anything?
No. I introduced myself last month. So
okay. Yeah, the select board meeting, it's very straightforward. We waited a long time and then they were like, yep, okay, approved, like right away. So that was good. And then updates. So as I had mentioned briefly, Melanie Lloyd is going to be coming back. She said this month, probably, maybe, but definitely by next month. She is just overwhelmed with some, COVID extra work because of COVID. So she'll be back in the swing of things soon. She's very excited to be back. And then Caitlin Cusack said after sugaring season ended, she'd be involved or possibly involved. So I'm going to be reaching back in touch with her and Chris Urban because we have one more vacancy right now. So I'm going to be in touch with them first. And then if that spot still remains, we can do some more advertising or see if anyone else in the community wants it. But those two have sort of claimed that they would, they're interested. So there's sort of a waiting line. We'll see if anyone takes that spot before we move on. Any other thoughts on membership? Okay. Let's see what's next. Bristol Trail Network. Any updates? I think that Porter has sent out some emails about there being a lot of mud on the trail or people not to go on there.
I just did it less than a week ago and it's fine.
Yeah, that's right. She said there could be mud, but then the next email said, right, that it's actually fairly well drained this year and it was doing well. That's right. That's right. So yeah, so that's going along. I emailed her and asked if they're going to be doing a spring event or not, and she said that there wasn't one planned as of yet. So we'll see if that shapes up and what our thoughts are about that. I know we've been looking forward to that as a nice chance to get together with her, but maybe we'll invite her or do something else instead. Yeah, that was all the trail updates I can think of. Okay, great. So parks updates, Alex?
Yeah, so just some kind of normal maintenance going on in the parks recently. A couple of benches, one at Sycamore needed to be repaired. That was all taken care of in the past month. Something that's still on the list to take care of is the Memorial Park sign is partially down, like it's normally on two hooks and it's kind of on one. So that's looking like early next week. Meredith and I are going to go up and hopefully it's just a reset it and everything's fine. But other than that, obviously parks are going to continue to get used more. Another sort of project or area to update, the Sycamore Park parking lot. We added some gravel in the fall to kind of balance out the mud factor and the big puddles and whatnot. So as an update, Meredith spoke to Peaker about coming down and giving us an assessment of how much more gravel we'll need and whether or not he can kind of help us out with that process. So I don't have a date on that, but I know that as the weather continues to get nicer and the parking lot becomes less muddy, that can kind of move up the agenda. So looking forward to that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and otherwise we did some large litter like removal from Sycamore Park as well. So yeah, everything's looking good so far. I don't have an Eagle Park update as far as the platform goes, but
I think
yeah.
Kristen has information.
Yes, yeah, that'd be but otherwise, yeah, all the other parks are looking good for us. Yeah.
Cool. That's great news about that parking lot. That's a mess. That's good. Kristen,
Yeah.
did you want to talk about the platform?
Sure. So since our last meeting, Dave Henderson and I visited the site with Valerie Caples, and then I reached out to, we decided at that meeting that what we were going to do is reach out to the engineer that has been involved in the original construction and use Conservation Reserve monies to pay that engineer to coordinate the repairs and the mitigation that's been suggested by FEMA, which would maybe lessen the chances of damage there at the park, and to coordinate that activity. So I reached out to Roy Schiff at Mylon and McBroom after we met on site, and I just connected with him today by phone. My original email to him was lost in their spam filter. So we lost a week or maybe 10 days of the process, but they will give us a cost estimate by next Friday for their engineering services, and we'll bring that to the select board on April 26th for their review and approval, and then design will happen in May, June. We'll go out for bid in June, July, and probably construction in August. All of that, presuming that we can get willing contractors to bid on the project, which has been a struggle in COVID because the contractors are just straight out. So that's our goal for a timeline, but we understand that COVID may stretch that timeline a little bit as well.
I think that's
How often is that platform damaged by floods?
Fairly repeatedly.
That's kind of what I thought. So
2017 and 2019, and so various steps have been taken in the repairs each time in order to make it more resilient.
Interesting. My
Right, so-
suspicion is
oh.
this engineer cannot guarantee that any repairs that he suggests that are made will fix it. I mean, I wonder what the point is in investing money in something that just gets ripped out every other year. Is asking the guy who designed it the right strategy, given that he designed it and it's been ripped out several times? Should we ask somebody else?
Well, first of all, there was a team that designed it, men and women engineers from Ilona McBroom. So there's that. They are most familiar with the design, as is Doc Doctors, who is the business entity that
Yep.
Fabricated the design.
Yep.
And there have been a number of mitigation measures that have been discussed that would help to make the structure more resilient in the face of future floods, such as breakaway railing, such as different methods for reinforcing the handicap accessible ramp. We're also in communications with Mike Wachowski at Vermont Fish and Wildlife, who was involved in the original siting and design, and Fish and Wildlife funds went toward the construction of that ramp as well. So he's involved as well in consideration of the mitigation strategies, and that's something that will be part of the redesign, is consideration of ways to make it more robust.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
And then was there that, is this is the ramp, the walkway part, but there's also like, did the rock shift or something that was attached to? And is there something we can do with that? Or where are we on that? I forgot.
In the past, the ramp has been washed out, or prior to the ramp being there, it was just SurePack, in fact, that was washed out. But then the ramp itself was outflanked by some rather extreme flood events on Halloween 2019. And one thing that happened in 2019 is that the platform itself, which is bolted to there's two boulders that brace it, and it's installed between those two boulders. And on the upstream boulder, the mounting and the bolts that secure the platform to the rock were actually separated, and it does appear as though the boulder itself settled and separated from the platform. The downstream mounting to the other boulder appears to be secure, and so that all of that will be discussed in the design,
Okay.
and
Cool.
taken into consideration.
Great. And then are we still hopefully going to be eligible for that FEMA funding if we change the timeline, or if we, I mean, realistically, we have to push the timeline? Is that also going to affect that?
It shouldn't. So there is
Okay.
sizable FEMA reimbursement to repair and mitigate. And the FEMA pays for 75% of the estimate. There's another 12.5% that's kicked in by the state, leaving 12.5% that needs to be raised at the local level. And there is a timeline on those FEMA funds that is set to expire in July, but it's our understanding that if we show good faith effort toward redesign and construction schedule, then FEMA will extend that deadline. And they also are fully aware that it's very difficult to get contractors on board in COVID times because they're in such high demand.
That sounds great. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the lead on this and doing a lot of good work on this project. Thank you.
And Dave Henderson as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's great. Any other thoughts about the fishing platform? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Kristen. Emerald Ash Borer Strategic Planning Committee updates.
Yeah, so we had a meeting with the select board, or we had a presentation to the select board recently, and that went well. It's kind of a summary of what we've been working on. And yeah, so the next steps with the notes from the select board members is to move forward. So the next thing is a public information session, which would be happening probably anytime late April to early May. And that's more of a question and answer focused, answer questions from the community, both about what's happening to the trees that are in the public right of way, and also what should I do if I have a private, ash tree. So kind of giving advice there. So that'll be like a large Zoom meeting with a PowerPoint, and then chance for question and answer at the end. And then just submitting the paperwork for the grant. The deadline's in June, and so far we're on track with that. Yeah, it's been great. We are kind of waiting for the trees to kind of leaf out a little bit more before John Swepston, the tree warden, and the other arborists on our committee can make assessments on sort of like what percentage of the canopy the tree is keeping alive, and then that helps us to prioritize, or will help us to prioritize which trees are in the worst shape and therefore need to be taken down first in the village. And so yeah, that's where we are with that. And we have another meeting coming up next week, probably on Thursday. So yeah.
Great. And then I received an email from a concerned citizen and
Yeah.
forwarded that to you. Is that appropriate? Is that what you would like to happen in the future?
That was perfect. Yeah. So just as a general update, without mentioning names, a person had mentioned that they believe that on their property they have several ash trees that are in bad shape, and wanted to make sure that they were part of the project. So there was good correspondence. I looked at our online map. It looks like those trees have been recorded in the initial data collection, and so I'll probably head out there tomorrow and just confirm. It's always hard because certain times of year the trees look like, in November the trees look pretty good, right? Because you can't see any of the leaves. All the leaves are down. It looks like it's pretty healthy. So I believe since a lot of the data collection was done in the late fall and the winter, there might be a more optimistic outlook on some of the health of the trees, just based on the fact that they were, done during the winter. So now in the spring, we can kind of do it'll be a lot faster because we don't have to search for the trees. We can just say, okay, there's an ash tree coming up. Is it actually in good condition, or is it more like fair to poor condition? So based on the leafing out. So yeah, that'll be something that we're doing, but that'll go really fast with the experts that we have. And yeah, it's good to get some community engagement, and people are definitely wanting to make sure that their trees and their sort of spots are being taken care of. So that was good.
Is the proposal online somewhere? Is it available to the public?
Not yet. So we're sort of advised to submit to the select board to have them review it as another set of eyes. So with the public information session, part of that rollout will be to publish the plan, or to put the plan on the website, and then make sure everybody has a link to it so they can
Great.
review it. Yeah.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Any other Emerald Ash Borer questions or thoughts? Okay. Illegal dumping up our notch specifically. Although I did receive a email correspondence from Valerie, I think, about some illegal dumping of cat litter that's been going on apparently for years and years in the a public space across the road from someone's house. So someone had asked if they could clean it up for Green Up Day, and I said, I guess that's roadside litter. I don't know if kitty litter. I mean, I guess it says litter in the name, but I don't know. So I said, I guess if someone wanted to clean it up, they could, and then Eric Codis at the town could probably like haul it if it was that bad. if no one wanted to do it for Green Up Day. So that's where we sort of left that. But I was intrigued that there was like another illegal spot popping up that people were complaining about. And they're going through the same steps that we've done with this, the illegal dump on Upper Notch, is just to talk to the Addison County Solid Waste District and then work with the Sheriff's Department. But yeah, about the Upper Notch site, I haven't heard anything updated. It's on my April to-do list to call Sergeant Elmore, but that's all I've got right now. Nothing new on that one. Questions or thoughts or anything? Okay.
I wonder if we ought to bring to his attention the Bristol Pond boat launch dumping as well. That's, in a way, I think the Bristol Pond boat launch might be in some ways a higher priority, even just because as much as we'd love people to stop throwing their deer carcasses off Upper Notch Road, if you throw a trail camera there, there's about 15 more spots they can chuck a deer within 100 yards of there. It's just like it's relatively, certainly not condoning it, but it's farther from the public eye than the Bristol the Bristol Pond boat launch is, and that's gotten pretty bad.
I like that you went on the record there that you're not condoning dumping there.
Well,
I didn't know there was. I didn't know there was like a legitimate problem.
I am anti-dumping stuff anywhere, but the Bristol Pond launch, I'm just was saying that's concerning too, and it might be easier to do something about just because it's a kind of a focused area, that is really high traffic from people, and it's a really significant nuisance, I think.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know much about that one. If I sent you the link to the paperwork, could you fill it out and get it worked, get it going?
A friend of mine who had oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say one consideration is that that's actually in Moncton. Depending upon where they're dumping, the town line goes right on the south side of the driveway.
So we'll just put a sign up that says "Dump your stuff on the north side of the park."
So yeah, is it happening right at the boat launch?
Yeah, actually, funnily enough, on the north side of the little parking area there is the kind of the worst spot. Okay. There's that little creek that comes in.
Yeah.
There's a little drop off, and you can chuck your what have you over that side.
So we'd want to, at the least, kind of coordinate with the Moncton Conservation Commission, maybe too.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah.
For your information on that, that's state property. All you got to do is contact Dale Whitlock, the game warden for this area, and let him know about it, and he'll take care of it. You shouldn't have to burden yourselves with that. Because that is a state access.
Gotcha.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, Dale Whitlock, he's the game warden for this area.
Cool. Well, that would be convenient.
Okay.
All right. So did you get that name written down so we can make sure we call him?
Yeah, Dale Whitlock. Yeah, Dale, D-A-L-E Whitlock. It's in the Fish and Game website.
Okay. I thought it was.
I don't have his number offhand right now. I have it downstairs, but it's easy to find. And he will respond to you. If you want, you can tell him that I told you to call because he's a good friend of mine. Okay.
We've dealt a few times with Wes Butler too. I thought he was the guy for Bristol, but either way, they're both those guys.
No, Dale is the game warden for this area.
Cool. That's convenient. Okay, so hopefully that'll work out. Helen, do you want to say something?
I wonder if it's worth putting a sign on that kiosk that is so overly signed right now. Just saying that if you find, no, never mind. That'll backfire. If you find trash in this area, call Dale Whitlock, but never mind. That's a bad idea.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that it, I don't know that it's a deterrent to the people doing it, but it might be an encouragement to other people that, that there's some sort of recourse, which isn't a bad thing.
Right. So a friend of mine went there, I'm going to guess it over 2 weeks ago, and pulled out a pickup truck's worth of stuff, tires and trash, and at least 4 deer carcasses and a dead fox, just a ton of stuff. And, you know, she was complaining. She has to pay to have that taken to the dump. So if she knew to call Dale Whitlock, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
There is rules and regulations posted on that kiosk about refuse and trash and what uses you can use the access for.
Uh-huh. But I'm wondering if there's information for a citizen who's going to go paddling and they see a whole bunch of junk. Is there information on the kiosk who I should call?
I do believe that they have a number on there. I'm not sure, but I think there is information there.
Okay.
Alex, would you mind scouting that out and following
Totally.
up? Yes, that'd be great.
Getting to be that time of year anyway. Bristle Pond is calling her name.
Do you have a canoe or something?
We have too many in the backyard at the
Oh,
moment.
I see.
We got
Our
a
yard
canoe.
is small. We've got 3 boats in it.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you. That'd be great if you could take that on. That'd be really good. I'll just change this maybe to like illegal dumping in Bristol, and we'll just make it a little more vague, and then we'll have like comma. We can like update different locations, unfortunately, and we'll just sort of go from there. If it's something that we want to or think is important to pursue. I don't think anyone wants to deal with it, but someone should. Okay, great. That's great. Okay, so anything else about that? Okay, great. So the website. I've updated Helen's name on there. I updated the positions because it was our annual meeting. So we updated the roles, the positions people have. What else? Rolled over when everyone's term ends, just some simple stuff. And then I'm hoping, I didn't get to it yet, to put the winter scavenger hunt up as more of like an archive version that doesn't say all the information about like turn this in for prizes, just so it's like just a scavenger hunt if you're interested. It's just there. So like teachers could print it, or anyone in the community if they wanted could have like a more of like a permanent version and not like a, you know, an expired prize version. I got the, oh yeah, speaking of which, this isn't I guess on that, but the winter scavenger hunt, I also did mail those out to everyone and get those Bristol books from Jono, and they're off. And hopefully people get them and are happy. I wrote like a congratulations letter, and so it's done. So it's a wrap for that, which is nice. So I'll finish up. Yes, Jim.
Then anyone wants Dale's number, you can call the New Haven State Police Barracks 388-4919, or his direct line is 777-6269.
Can you repeat the first number?
The first number is the New Haven State Police Barracks. They'll give them a message. It's 388-4919.
Gotcha.
And you want the direct number also?
I think I got it. It's 777-6269.
You got it. Very good.
That was
Okay,
impressive.
that's all I have to say.
Okay, great. So that's the website. Just some updates is all, nothing major is happening with that. And then Green Up Day. Planning updates for our second annually socially distanced Green Up Day. So I have the bags. I've got several hundred bags in the house, a big box of gloves and prizes for the school. Andrea Murnane has requested 35 bags for BES. I'm going to be dropping off 100 bags at the library. They're going to be doing a big Earth Day celebration, and so they're going to be incorporating some of the bags in that, as well as some of the flyers and things I received that I would have put on my table the day of, but since we don't have that table this year, they're going to put some of those in their Earth Day setup for their in the windows and things of the library. And then I'm going to also have 200 bags just to start going to Meredith and Alex if he's in. I don't know where you are anymore. Are you in the hub or the or Holly
Both,
Hall?
yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna have 200 bags in Holly Hall to start with gloves, and we're gonna put those on the porch up the steps. And then, oh, and I also gave Meredith the posters, and she wanted to put those up. So she's, maybe she delegated that. I don't know to happen, but there we go. So yeah, those posters are getting put up. And And then we also received a few coupons for water and donuts and things that we can't use because we don't have a table. So I also pass those along for people. Maybe the hub wants to use those or something. I know sometimes you guys do like events and stuff with related to the environment, so you can use them at those kind of things or something. And that's pretty much it. And I'll do some front porch forum posts. I did the first one, kind of like get ready. This is the date, and then we'll start doing. It's in 5 days. It's tomorrow. Like here's the plan. The bags are out. Like all those sort of things to get ready, and we'll send those out to the various listservs and people that can send them out to their groups. Oh, and Red Cedar School wanted some bags as well for their school. They usually get about a dozen bags. I do Hardscrabble Road, so we'll send some over there too. And it should be good. It should be not as big as a normal year, I'm guessing, but certainly bigger than last year. I would say normally we do about 2 tons of trash, and last year was only about half a ton. So we're excited for a big year this year.
Huh, amazing. Because I collected twice as much last year than I do in any previous year.
Really?
So somebody else compensated by collecting a whole lot less. Okay.
Yeah. I think it was pretty hit or miss last year. The date was changed, and then there was grass that was growing over some of it. And we just couldn't get the big groups out like normal. Normally, New Haven River Anglers, well, I should talk to them. They usually do a whole bunch with the river. You get a lot of school groups and scouts. They just weren't, everyone was just home. So it was a little different, I think, for all of that. So, we just had, it was a huge decrease in participation last year. And hugely different numbers of bags and things, and ultimately, less trash as well. But yeah, we had 600 volunteers, 400 bags. We usually do quite a good group here in Bristol. But last year it was quite diminished. We only passed out 200 bags and got only a quarter, so half the bags and a quarter of the amount of trash as usual. So a little bit disappointing, but doing our best for coronavirus. It's an asterisk year, and this will be an asterisk year as well. So we'll just do our best. We're not going to have the sandwich boards and the signs and the tables and the jumpy castle and the Teslas. It's just not going to happen. But maybe in 2022, we'll be back strong with the Green Up Day Expo, and we'll see if that'll work then. So that's what's happening right now. Does anyone know the New Haven River Anglers who I could contact with them? Or do you know a group that you were thinking like, oh, they might want? I know I heard the Bristol Trail Network was going to try to do a big push this year on the trails. So I don't know if anyone knows of a group they want to tell me. Yeah.
The New Haven River Anglers person you'd want to talk to is Paul Scaramucci, who's their president right now. But they, how should I delicately say this? That they're not a bunch of young strapping folks. So I don't know that they've always been involved in cleanups per se. But Skeever Bartlett, who is their conservation committee lead, has often coordinated like the Middlebury football team or the Middlebury Alpine ski team to do some of that cleanup work.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because one year, and I could look through my sent mail, my email, but one year we had a ton of bags go out to them, and they did a big push. I don't know who did the heavy lifting, let's say, but I know that they were really organized one year, and they did stops all over the New Haven, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should be good. Even last year, Eric Code in the road department, they were having a hard time even manning enough people just to pick the trash up. Their office was empty. It was a real struggle just everything. I couldn't even get the bags. I had to put a sign in my window that said Bristol, and then she put them in my car, and they didn't want me to get out. It was really difficult last year. It was really hard. So this year's been already I still met her at an undisclosed location on the side of the highway, and we got the bags, but at least I could talk to her this time. So it was a little bit more normal. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll get there and have a good Green Up Day. So yeah, that's pretty much what's going on with that. Any questions about Green Up Day or other comments? And next time we meet, it'll be after Green Up Day. So this is the last chance if you want to say anything about it. Alex?
Yeah, Carolyn, I just had a question or clarification. So on the flyers, there's bottom half that's like
Yes.
perforated, and it says, you know, like the person in my town, and then there's like another thing of like town instructions. So
Mhm.
if you want me to write, or I could print out something and then like tape it on there, or we could just cut it out completely. It's totally
Yeah, in the envelope that I gave Meredith, I had like a little flyer that's the kind of thing I want to tape to the top of the boxes, and it says like green up day bags, like take the bags,
right.
fill them with roadside litter, put them by a public road, and then have them out on green up day no later than May 2nd. So if you want to put that kind of like a short version of 1, 2, 3 in there, and then I don't know, I guess you can put my name and maybe my email. I don't know if I want
Okay.
to have like my phone number all over
Right.
town. It's a little dicey.
Yeah, that's what I
Um,
figured. Yeah, okay.
yeah. Or if you want to do rec and then you could forward it to me, like if that seems less weird. I don't know. Either way. I mean, I'm already on the website, so you
Okay.
can just put my email too. It's fine.
Okay. All right.
That's fine.
I probably will email you what I plan to put on there.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Cool.
then 2 signs already went to Coco at the library. So
Okay.
you don't have to do the library. They're doing
Perfect.
it.
Sounds good.
So yeah, I just, and like I usually I do a lot of data, I have these, I don't know if you can see them. I get these like data sheets, and I get like names and info and how many bags and what road you're going to. I get big maps, and we try to we have these maps of Bristol, and I'm like, okay, who's going where? But we're just like pick it up or don't. Like we're not doing that this year. It's just too hard. So. Okay, that's Green Up Day. So we'll just stay the course. We got a lot of planning already in place. It's almost done. That's just what it is this year. Okay, Edith Stock Trust. Updates from the select board meeting.
Can I stop 1 second and ask who
Please.
Edith Stock was and why? Who? Yeah.
Someone who loved the birds of Bristol that in some way knew that lawyer. I really don't know.
Does anybody
Kristen,
know?
do you know?
Okay.
Sorry, I'm muted. She was a longtime resident of Bristol. I don't know much, but she left a sizable chunk of money, and George Vince was the executor of that fund. And the monies were designated to care for bird habitat. That's about all that I know. We should know more, and we'll research more so that we can add a little more context, I think, to the kiosk and the Sycamore Park management plan.
Right, and we're still waiting for that box of documents then, right?
Yes, we don't have the box of documents yet I don't, at least from George Vince.
Yeah. Maybe once we get a blurb too, we could see if George could add any details to it if he knows them
Yeah.
as well. So I went to the select board meeting. Was I the only one there? I don't remember. I guess I must have been. So the select board meeting, and they said it was just fine, and they seemed to they didn't really care. They just said like, okay, like it's moved. Yes, this sounds good. If someone wants to give us money, great. And then they just approved that they would hang on to the money, but it would be in some way earmarked, that it would be under, I think we still have to tell them we're going to spend it with the Conservation Reserve Fund, but it would be like under our control, I think. Kristen, do you know any more details about how that fund got set up? In the meeting, it was pretty vague. They were just sort of like, yep, so moved on, and we just moved on. So
Yeah, I think Valerie just indicated that it would be a separately maintained fund, but I agree. I think we will still need to get select board approval for any recommended expenditure that we have.
right. And then Jana was supposed to get those birdhouses, and so we'll wait and keep this on here to make sure we get the birdhouses too. We gotta make sure we crack that loop. And then I guess that we should maybe once we get the documents and read them, then we can think what we want to do with the money after we read about it. Would that be an appropriate timeline, do you think? Or do we want to talk about that now? I don't know what we're thinking.
I don't think there's any great rush.
Okay.
it might make sense to better understand, the origin of the funds and who she was, and unless there's a bird related expense that we're just itching to spend.
What else has her money been spent on?
So it developed initially. There's a little orchard at Sycamore Park, so her money's paid to plant that. Her money's paid to remove the vehicular access roads within the park after the 1998 flood. In part, they helped with that. FEMA funding also helped with that. Her monies have also gone toward the purchase of a small piece of land immediately across Mountain Road from the Bristol Elementary School. That's stewarded by Vermont Family Forests and the Watershed Center, I should say. But somehow her monies went toward the purchase or conservation of that parcel, and so they call that the Edith Stock parcel.
Oh, that's good to know. Great.
And the elementary students access that area for outdoor education throughout the year in a normal year.
Mhm. On the birdhouses too at Sycamore, right?
Yeah, birdhouses at Sycamore Park as well.
Okay. Well, I think we'll just wait on that and we'll see sort of how that continues to develop and we'll get more information on that.
Mhm.
Okay, sounds good. Lewis Creek Association presentation debrief. Zilly, how'd that go?
Seemed to go well. There were a handful of people that attended, and Kate Kelly did the presentation, and then she had a student. What was his name? Matt. Yeah. Anyway,
Matt's up.
he did a presentation on invasive species, and then they had a little Q&A. Seemed to go well. Yeah.
Great. Anything like actionable on our end? Did they we were talking about that
Really,
frog bit
yeah.
removal. Did that come up?
Pretty high level. And no, actually, I don't think that did make its way in. But no, it was fairly high level. And a lot of the sort of action items that she was talking about were things like coordination with landowners to allow streams to follow natural paths and that kind of thing that are pretty high level stuff, and kind of requiring of having like a particular spot in mind and a willing landowner and so on. And also the kind of thing that it seems like the Lewis Creek Association is more adept and like getting themselves involved in and kind of are, heading that up.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Hey, very screaming infant. Okay. I think it's being moved. The sound is slowly fading through the house. Okay, so that sounds great. I'm really glad that we were able to do that. That was kind of an interesting bonus thing that she wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And it was nice. It seemed like a decent turnout of people that were pretty concerned about those, like some experts and stuff, right? That came. That was kind of fun.
Really vibrant Q&A and so on. Yeah, it was a well appreciated event for sure.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you very much for organizing that and helping us connect with Kate to organize it, or however you want to phrase that. But thank you. And then that's the town plan is next. That was the conversation I really wanted to have for that little bit of homework I sort of sent out. So why don't I share my screen and we can have that discussion about the town plan. So what I want to do is I'm just gonna do a control find. And we can see if we can just find the word Conservation Commission in here and go through it together. Does anyone have anything that they like, anything that jumped out to begin with that they wanted to talk about? Oh boy, why isn't this searching correctly?
Quotation marks, maybe?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, because this is a bit of a mess. We're not going to go through that many thousands of things. Okay, great. Why does it always work when I practice by myself? Why is that?
Well,
You guys are bad luck.
it starts on page 76. and
Thank
it's only
you. I will do
less than
that.
30 pages, so we could just go through it. You got it.
Right. Okay. So there's all of this text here, which is kind of fascinating personally. I thought it was really nice just to sort of
It was just kind of fun
understand.
to like go through. It was something that I wouldn't have necessarily read otherwise.
Yeah.
There's a lot of detail.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like the important forest blocks because when I'm driving and I see construction, I think, oh, is that one of the blocks? Should I like say something? But okay, great. So here we have our policies here. And this first one, our first goal 1 here, conserve natural features and resources that provide a significant benefit to the general public and protect rare, threatened, and endangered species, significant natural communities, and existing wilderness areas. It says consult with and support the efforts of the Bristol Conservation Commission. So not a lot to do there that's actionable, but good to know that we were mentioned and considered for that first goal, which I thought was nice.
So there's actually something I'm interested in pursuing.
Yeah.
Although I think it's impossible, is somehow controlling Japanese knotweed. It's invasive. It's not native. Right now, it's a major part of riparian communities. So if we could figure out a way to get rid of it, it has to be replaced with something because you don't want bare soil. It's noxious. It's very, very difficult to get rid of.
Yeah.
But I have a friend in the Adirondacks who the Nature Conservancy has developed an interest in trying to control Japanese knotweed. And so they're contacting citizens who have that plant on their property, and they're going to come out and start doing removal. Has this group ever talked about invasive plant species and what we can do?
Yeah, we have. Japanese knotweed is it's pretty nasty and it is all over, like Sycamore Park, for example, right?
Yeah.
I think the sheer magnitude of the task has been overwhelming, to say the least. But Kristen, you've done some work pulling, was it knotweed at one of the Gateway Farm areas or something, or tagging it or something?
That was well parsnip at the Gateway Farm, but we have pulled Japanese knotweed at the Saunders River access. And we engaged crews from the Vermont Youth Conservation Corps to do that work, and also various volunteers. The reason that we undertook it there was because the plants were very small and they were at a point where you could effectively remove them with manual methods, digging and so forth. But once the plant gets mature to the point that it is at Sycamore Park, for example, it's very, very difficult to get rid of. And I support your enthusiasm, and I would cheer you on. But I think this group has had this discussion a number of times and come to the conclusion that it's just simply not feasible for us to remove Japanese knotweed from any of the public parks that we have where the plant is mature and established. That said, if some magical technique comes along that proves to be more effective than manual cutting and covering it and so forth, then we could revisit that.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to revisit.
Well, I mean, this won't have any role in effectively controlling it, but it's edible in the spring when they're very young shoots. So if we could start some culinary fad when everybody's racing out there to cut these young shoots. And
The
they
new ramp.
Yeah, exactly. The common ramp, the river ramp. It's a
Yeah.
river ramp.
Do you know, Helen, what it is that the Nature Conservancy is like? What their method is for the?
I don't,
how-
and I'll ask.
Yeah, it'd be kind of
Um,
interesting. Maybe they do have a better way of going about it than. It's got to seem like it would be monumental anywhere to anybody, you know.
Right, right.
If manual removal is the only option.
Right. So I think the difficulties with it are twofold. One is that there's a lot going on underground. So if you cut above ground, you're removing only part of it and it comes back the next year. So you have to do it year after year, right? But eventually it will run out of resources and stop. But the other is that it has tiny seeds that are wind blown. So if anyone could cut them back after flowering or before flowering and just remove anything that would disperse. So that's how it's getting to all the new sites, is these very small windblown seeds. I'm always amazed that there don't seem to be state programs to get rid of invasive species.
Well,
'Cause-
there are actually.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and that's how we funded the couple of years of funding for at the Saunders River Access property. Those were state funds that supported that, and there actually was a position for Japanese knotweed czar. I know there was a better real term for his position, but we did have a temporary position a couple of years after the tropical storm Irene.
What office did this?
His was through Brian Colleran was his name, and he came out of Vermont DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation.
Okay.
That was a temporary position that was funded for a couple of years. He came to our Saunders River Access site and trained a number of volunteers in the manual removal of Japanese knotweed and so forth. But I think, like anything, it's just the sheer magnitude, as Carolyn said, of the problem that, and the other issue is that it travels in the floodwaters. So even if let's say we were to magically remove all the knotweed from Sycamore Park, the next flood that occurs would just simply spread more plants and more fragments that would start new plants. So it's a very, very difficult problem to
I
solve.
think we could have maybe a targeted approach if there was a spot that we cared about in particular, like where the Universal Fishing Platform is. There's that walkway. We've been pretty good at keeping
Controlling it there. Yeah.
controlling it, so it stays like on that water side of the path and stops by those rocks, right? We really try to. It's hemmed in, and if people see them on the path, kind of rip them out, right? So there's been like at least some control. I thought maybe someone was.
And then there's
vigilante poisoning them as well.
There's a couple of small little clumps on the Coffin Factory Trail that I pull every year, and so that's where it can be very effective when you see a new infestation just beginning. We can be very effective at keeping it under control, but to recover to recover Sycamore Park from the Japanese knotweed would be a whole other.
Yeah, I'm not used to just throwing up my hands and saying, oh, well. And it's frustrating. I think that might be where we are. I mean, it is a huge problem. What did it look like 20 years ago? Why wasn't anybody paying attention, when this got started?
Well, and most of it actually spread in the 98 flood. So,
interesting.
And then again in the Irene flood. So that's why we see it largely along the whole New Haven River corridor.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So if you would like to, think about invasives and follow up, if because I mean, there are, I think, like we said, I think if there can be small good things that can happen, right?
Right. Right.
through going after funding, going after the places where it could make a difference, right? Because I think that, we could keep Eagle Park, stable and not lose that waterfront right there. That'd be nice, things like
Yeah.
that.
And I would just
It's-
point out too that on page 120 of
Yes.
the town plan, there is a action item, develop a management plan to minimize introduction of invasive species in Bristol's natural communities, into Bristol's natural communities on town properties. And we have a 5-year schedule for that.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
that is an action item we could work on.
Totally. Yeah. What page are you on for that? 120?
120, yeah.
Thanks. Right.
And that management plan might say, throw up our hands for Japanese knapweed, but we might be able to make inroads in garlic mustard or wild parsnip, say.
Yeah, our time might be better spent on the next Japanese knotweed.
Right?
Right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
can figure out what it is. Katsu or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with these actions then for this chapter. This is most of what we have here. So, Conservation Commission, identify significant public scenic resources. 5 years schedule for that. Any thoughts on what we can do or what this may and what this is about?
Huh.
Sorry, which one is?
This is I'm just starting at the beginning of implementation actions.
Got it. So
Just
page
the first
118.
one, yeah, and just the first one that we're mentioned under is under the community, which is a chapter I wasn't expecting to see the Conservation Commission mentioned in.
Yeah.
And I don't think we even read this chapter or looked at it when we looked over the town plan this last iteration.
Well, at this point, the Bristol Trail Network is
Yeah,
a public
doing a lot of that work.
resource. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, fair enough.
Just to some extent, Carolyn, the work that you've done to update the webpage.
Right, and with
is
Alex
kind of doing this, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, with the page Alex and I've been working on too, right?
Yep.
With that parks page. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, that's identifying the public scenic resources and trying to, think about those.
Mhm.
Do something with that. That's true. Okay, great. Okay, well, that seems like we're doing something for that then. That's good. We're not completely falling by the wayside on that one. Okay, now this is the top of page 119. Recreation and healthy living. Maintain existing public facilities and outdoor spaces that encourage social and leisure time activities among town residents. Ongoing. Well, this is more like the parks idea that Alex is working on, I feel. And it says to work in conjunction with the rec department. So I think that we're on board with that one, right?
The work on the fishing platform will certainly fall under that.
Yeah,
too.
definitely.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Yeah, the fishing platform would fall under there too.
Yeah,
And I
the-
think-
As the digging kitty litter out of the ditch outside Bristol Pond too.
yeah, and slowly replacing picnic benches and stuff that's kind of been rotted out, and
Mhm.
doing that over the years is a good one for that too.
Nice. Great.
And
Okay.
I sort of
I just want
see
to make sure
that-
we're like at least doing something for all these.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that, Kristen?
I sort of see this as enabling language in a way for the use of the Conservation Reserve Fund dollars towards some of these action items as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's nice. Let's see. I'm gonna scroll till I find the next. Oh, here we go. Natural resource and forest blocks. There's a bunch here. I think we do. This is everything 1 through 6 is all Conservation Commission. So let's see. Strive to maintain and improve public access to the New Haven River, Baldwin Creek, and Bristol Pond. Ongoing.
that would
Mold
be
the fishing
cleaning up-
platform.
Yeah. And cleaning up Bristol Pond boat access.
Yeah, a lot of the same stuff, as the last category, really.
Yeah. Is Baldwin Creek what runs by Memorial? Does anyone
No,
know?
it's what runs past the Gateway Farm. It runs parallels Route 116 on the northern gateway to Bristol Village.
Wow.
So I'm just wondering, what's Baldwin Creek then? Because it's Mary's on Baldwin Creek, right?
Yes,
So I'm trying to
yeah.
think of-
That's
Is
Baldwin.
that? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So then, anything with Memorial Park would sort of go towards this then. So that's good.
Yeah.
Which we are definitely trying to maintain and improve. It's just a slow process, but
Mhm.
right. Oh, and that VOREC grant, we're still waiting for that to go live, and then we're gonna write that one. That's exciting with Porter.
Mhm.
Okay, develop a management plan to minimize introduction of invasive species into Bristol's natural communities on town properties. 5-year schedule. Develop a management plan to minimize this. Okay, so maybe this is something, yeah, like we were getting at that Helen was interested in.
Well, except they're specific. They're saying minimize the introduction of invasive.
That's true.
They're not talking about controlling those
That's
that
true.
are there. But yeah. I'm not going anywhere with that. I don't know.
Maybe this could be something we would roll into those management plans that we're supposed to write in section 6 or action 6.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we do have a section on invasives in our management plan, like for example, for Sycamore Park.
Yeah. So maybe when we get around to doing those management plans to focus on invasives there, and that would be both of those items.
I
Yeah,
like that.
the Emerald Ash Borer written plan you could throw that in there too, since
Yeah.
it's not confirmed that Emerald Ash Borer is in every single park, for example. So technically,
Yeah,
it's
good
still in
point.
Bristol. It's not in the land that is being managed by the Conservation Commission. So it's still prevention, I guess.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's not good, but it does suggest that we are working on these items. Okay, develop education and outreach materials for landowners about rare, threatened, endangered species and how to develop a management plan for these sites. Ongoing.
Whoa.
That is not something that we have done a lot of work on in my memory. Well, we've done to education in terms of having talks, right? We've had people come with talk about hawks and cougars and things, right?
Yeah, and
That-
Carolyn, if you recall, when you and I were at the select board meeting where they were talking about I think we expressed it was our intent not to directly go to individual landowners, but
Yes.
rather to generate materials that would be available to the public, including landowners,
Yes.
about how to manage their own properties in consideration of these rare, threatened, and endangered species. So I think it's
I
fairly
totally agree.
straightforward for us to create educational materials and have them be available. Right?
Yeah. Education outreach materials, they're just available, but we're not going door to door here. I totally agree that we had that conversation. That was the agreement that was our understanding of how we were going to deal with this. Yes.
Yeah.
And how to develop a management plan for those sites. Right. So maybe if we had some information about what's that thing you can do where you can turn your land into you can like sell an easement or something to someone.
Are you talking
There's
about
some-
current use?
There was
The
some
use
kind of,
value?
the forestry service guys were pushing that, I feel like, one time at a meeting I was at.
Correct.
There's a lot of different opportunities for recreational, conservation easements on your
Yeah.
property. I think current use is what you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So maybe if we made like a list of some of these things, maybe had like just like what if we had like a page that we made that like a PDF with like links to like different programs, or links to other materials that could be kind of like a Bristol specific guide almost to like if you're interested in species on your property, like this is what you could do. We have that sort of available. Something like that, maybe, I think is the sort of direction we're thinking with this, as opposed to like something we go like knocking on doors and like asking people about, endangered species on their property. So that's something we should think about. Educational outreach material on endangered species. Let me write that down. Okay, next, work with adjacent towns, local groups, state agencies, and willing landowners to develop low environmental impact biking and hiking trails that promote access to natural resource areas.
which is essentially what Porter has been doing
Oh.
largely.
Yeah.
Also
it's-
Meredith, right? With the biking.
I don't know a lot about that. Alex, do you know about that?
Yeah, so Meredith and Porter last summer and fall were working on adapting some of the trails to be more mountain bike friendly on Bristol Trail Network.
Okay, so yeah, so I guess that's an ongoing project that where people are definitely working on with the button. We haven't done much with adjacent towns or state agencies that I know of with that, but doesn't mean that that's not an ongoing thing to think about, right? So it seems like that's actually pretty much something that's ongoing happening. So that's good. Okay, evaluate opportunities to conserve lands with high natural resource value, especially those adjacent to town-owned or already conserved properties through purchase in fee simple or funding of conservation easements. Kristen, this seems like one you would understand more than I would.
Well, it's certainly efforts that we've been active in. I mean, it comes in spurts, fits and spurts, right?
Yeah.
But the last conservation purchase was this time last year in the acreage that's been appended to the Saunders River access at, from Paul Fuller's. So I think this is pretty much an ongoing thing that we have a long, long history of, and also this language is almost akin to the actual purpose for the conservation reserve
Yep.
fund. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this one speaks very much to the Conservation Reserve Fund. And like you said, I think that these opportunities come up every so often. And, I don't know if there's a current plan right now, but that was just a year ago that
Yeah.
last one was used.
This
Okay,
it
that
might,
sounds, yeah, please.
but it might be kind of important in the coming years. I don't know how much stock anybody should put in rumors, but you do hear things about significant chunks of Johnson land, for instance, coming for sale in the fairly near future, and a lot of that stuff is the backbone of the outdoor recreation, particularly hunting and fishing in the area.
Also hiking.
And but hiking, yeah, if everything's it's a big deal around here. And I don't know if that, maybe there will be opportunities for us to be involved in trying to maybe make sure some of that opportunity remains. Obviously, I don't know anything personally about whether how true those rumors are, but you do hear those things that their land ownership might change fairly significantly in the near future.
Well, that happened near me here on Lower Notch Road. When the woods, I could look right out here and see woods that are owned by A. Johnson. And 3 years ago, they decided to sell 70 acres. And we tried, a group of neighbors tried, or at least thought about buying it. But it was going for at least $250,000, and we couldn't imagine coming up with that much money. And then how does a group of neighbors deal with that when somebody wants to move away? And so we didn't do anything, and it was bought by a single person who cut down 40 acres, just clear cut 40 acres of it. So, we were disappointed that we didn't get our act together, because now it's changed irrevocably. But you're talking a lot of money.
I wonder that there may, there are some of the like particularly high value, outdoor recreation wise parcels may be less desirable as building lots. Hopefully, maybe that's just me being optimistic, but it's true though. This land is worth a lot, and it's worth a lot more today than it was a year ago, and it's so on and so forth. So who knows? But it might be something to keep our ear to the ground on.
Do you know A. Johnson land that is useful for hunters and
Quite a lot of it. I don't want to say how useful, we're being recorded.
You're the largest landowner in the state, right? And they
Right,
own,
yeah.
like the Ledges, for example, right? That's just right over downtown, right? For example, that's a spot that people like to hike, and there's recreation. The Nature Conservancy owns the sort of Deer Leap area, right? So maybe that's a situation where, maybe there's a conservation group that would be interested in that we could maybe talk to or facilitate that. But I think a lot of times they also have their eye on these sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
For those big parcels.
There's a real like connectivity thing that scares me with those places getting chopped up too, because a lot of this is Lincoln that I'm kind of thinking of, but there's a lot of the country up there that you're kind of bouncing between National Forest and Johnson. And it's nice that it's all contiguous use wise currently. And if that changes, it would be different, be a different world.
Yeah.
But it might be Japanese knotweed all over again.
Yeah. So, go on. Sorry, Helen. Go on.
Do you think A. Johnson would agree to talk to the Bristol Conservation Commission before they put land up for sale? Just so that we know about it, so that we can start doing fundraising if it's a particular piece that is adjacent to something that we already own or whatever? I mean, I don't know anybody at A. Johnson, but there's people there.
Well, Ken Johnson was the chair of the Bristol Conservation Commission for years and years. Kristen, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think many of us in town or from out of town have benefited greatly from these lands that A. Johnson Company has spent hard-earned dollars maintaining. So I think we need to thank them, be grateful to them that that in some ways they've offered a public resource, but they're in private, they're paying for that and maintaining that. And so if they're well within their rights to operate their business however they fit, and operating that business may involve selling lands. But Ken Johnson and his father and that family have been strong conservation-minded people for many generations. The Andrew Johnson legacy was given to the town recently, $100,000 to be spent in ways to conserve forest land, working forest lands, and so forth. So I think Ken would be willing, perhaps, to communicate with the commission about plans, particularly for lands that, like the trail at the Ledges, that have high public interest and conservation value. It's worth asking.
Yeah, I should clarify. I'm not critical at all of any plans that may or may not exist on their part. I think you're right. Like we live in a kind of a paradise around Bristol as far as public access, and it's mostly because of them.
Yeah.
They got to do what they got to do.
Yeah.
But it would be great. It would be great if there's some way to have a hand in maintaining that as much as possible for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I get the hunch. I don't know those folks personally, but you get the sense that they'd like to see that in general as well. I think they like being that part of the town.
I think so too. Yeah.
So I think in terms of this action item, then that we'll evaluate opportunities as they come up, as we have, and help to get other parties involved. If like Nature Conservancy wanted to buy a parcel in this area, if we can convince them of that. If Vermont Family Forest has done some supportive projects, and then we've been able to kick in local money by using the Conservation Reserve Fund as well. So I think that we've done a lot with that, and I think Kristen in particular has done quite a bit of helping to purchase high natural resource value lands in the area, which has been really nice. But yeah,
Yeah, our conservation reserve fund has limited monies in it, so it's always good when we can come together as a collaborative effort and leverage other funds like PNC or other parties. So that's good.
right. And then just for the people that are new, do you remember that value we came up with the leverage value? It was crazy,
Oh,
right? I think it's on the website.
I think it was 1 in 11. So for every
Yeah.
dollar that we spent from the conservation reserve fund, we gained $11 in state or other and private entities toward conservation of, like, for example, the Northern Gateway to the village of Bristol along Route 116 from Mary's at Baldwin Creek all the way back down to the Twin Bridges. That whole parcel, the ratio was 1 in 11. We brought in $11 for every dollar that we spent from the conservation reserve fund.
And then if you are new or have questions about the Conservation Reserve Fund, I do recommend that you go and look at the website, and there's a little document that we made about a year ago, or I think we finalized it maybe this winter, that sort of goes through how money has been spent, what the rules are for spending money, and just use some examples of how we've leveraged funds to buy properties, which has been it was pretty cool. We actually sat down and did the math. We were like, whoa, that's really good. Like, this is a great asset for the town to have this. So that's kind of cool. So I suggest checking that out. Okay, well, that one's definitely ongoing. And then the last one here is develop individual management plans for the town's parks. It says 3 years. Kristen, would you mind finding what exists of management plans so we can look at them and then figure out like what needs plans or we can move on? Because I think that you probably have at least drafts of everything that does exist, and then we could go on from.
I think the one park, the only plan where we have a complete management plan is Sycamore Park. Katie Riley wrote that largely about 10 years ago. So, and we're going to use that. We had talked about using that as a template for the other parks. And so I'll find that and send it around so that maybe that could be our homework for next time, maybe.
It would be great. And then what was it? The Saunders River access, that one has a whole plan too, because who's it? Someone wrote it, right?
The Vermont River Conservancy owns an easement on that parcel. And so what exists is the management plan for that easement. So it's really written by Vermont River Conservancy with our input, but it's not as though we actually wrote that.
Yeah, but it might be good.
It serves the purpose, right?
It might be good if we could send that one around too, because it just gives ideas of like, oh, I didn't think of like vehicular access or like campfires, or right. There were all sorts of clauses I never would have thought to put in that they had put in. I thought, oh, that's smart to add. I wouldn't have thought to include those things.
Yeah, I can get that.
That would be a nice one to send around, even if we don't want to like copy the language word for word on that one. We could at least like let that inform some of where we go with that.
Sure. Yeah.
So that'd be nice, and we can think about trying to tie some management plans into there as well for invasives. That'd be good. Okay, other Conservation Commission items. Flood resilience number 8, I think is the last one on here, and this was language that we tried really hard to get into this version. Oh, I skipped. Oh no, that's right. I didn't. And it says, consider river corridor conservation and protection measures to decrease flood erosion losses and increase flood resiliency and discourage additional infrastructure in the river corridor area. And this was language that Kristen and I pushed for at the Planning Commission meeting when they were doing this chapter.
There was some active discussion on this topic, and I would say Pete Domenico really spearheaded it too while he was alive, and Dave Henderson and others, past members of the commission.
Definitely. This has been something that was on the Conservation Commission's radar for a long time, and then we were just finally able to get into the town plan for the 2020 version.
And I would say that in large part, that's because of the state requirement now that all town plans need to have a section on flood resilience. And so there was some state backing of this item.
Yeah. So, it's, the planning commission, I think, is the one that would mostly do this. I'm wondering what role we can play in besides watchdogging this language. What can we do? I don't know that we, are like boots on the ground. Are there things we can do to make sure that we do see these river corridors happening, or I don't know. What are our thoughts on like how can we contribute to the action on this point?
Yeah, I mean, to a great degree, the permits that are required for new development will make sure that this happens. So there are draft river corridors that have been delineated for the main stem of the New Haven River and the major tributaries. So if a development that triggers Act 250 is proposed in Bristol, the state agency would review that proposal with consideration of those river corridors and for these objectives. And then there's also a local zoning requirement that would kick in, I believe, to consider river corridors. So on some level, procedures that are already in place will serve as an action item on this.
Okay.
I think, continuing to promote education on the issue would be a worthy goal on our part too. I mean, this is exactly what was talked about in the Lewis Creek Association presentation, and that, spreading that information is something that we can certainly host and promote.
That's a good point. Okay, great. So I think that's the last one that we're listed in. Is that correct? Oh, that's the end. Well, I guess that's it. Okay. So I can stop sharing now. My understanding then is that there's quite a few things that are about educational outreach, or there were two different things that were different management plans. So I think we can start looking at the management plans. Like you said, we have drafts, and we can think about what needs management plans, and sort of go from there. And then we can think about, creating educational materials as well. I'll have more time to do that when the semester ends. So I could work on that, or if anyone else wants to work on anything, let me know. Helen, would you like to add something about Japanese knotweed or other invasives to our agenda that you'd want to like sort of spearhead an invasive thing, or was that just sort of a thought you had? I wasn't sure how dedicated you were to that.
I'm not quite sure what the question is.
Oh, did you want me to put like an agenda item, like, Helen, how's Japanese knotweed going? Like, do you want that?
I'll link to it and let you know what I find, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay. I just want to make sure, like, if you want to do that, like, God bless. I just want to make sure. Okay, so maybe I'll add on management plans, and we'll start trying to work that into our discussion on working on those management plans. I think would be a good first step of something we can do that's actionable. Do people agree with that? Okay, cool. So that's been a long-standing to-do list item for this group. So it'd be nice to make some movement on that. Cool. Okay, does anyone else have anything else they want to talk about with the town plan stuff and sort of directions and other questions or thoughts? Okay, I think that's the end of our agenda then. Perfect. Any new business for the last 5 minutes? We talked about a lot of stuff a minute ago, but
I would just bring up something that I forgot to mention under town parks. I know that we skipped maintaining the perennial garden at Eagle Park last year, I think because of COVID. And I've noticed, I was there today, and I noticed there's some sycamore that's taking root, and we shouldn't let it go again this year. I think even though the ramp is not yet repaired, if we could plan for a work day there again this year, I'm sure I could get Ken Johnson to maybe drop some mulch for us there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sometime in May.
There's Jono. Hi.
Hey, I'm very, very sorry. I had to go get compost, and it's like do or die. And I thought I was going to be able to be here like maybe 6:30 or 6:45, and I didn't even have a chance to send a message saying I was going to come in late. And here we are. I'm so sorry, but here I am.
So we were just about to plan a work day. And so apparently you've got a strong back for compost, so you were gonna love moving some mulch.
Yeah, I can probably do that. I got a
um,
truck and a trailer, if that's helpful.
hopefully we can get Ken. We'll see.
To drop
I don't
some
want to put him.
mulch at
I don't
Eagle
want to
Park.
like get recorded that he has to do that, but we would hope that he would be able to support some of that and drop that off if
Ken
possible.
who? Oh,
John.
Jonathan?
Johnson.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. Great.
So maybe a Saturday or a Sunday in May
Yeah.
for a couple hours in the morning or something.
Yeah. So May 1st is Green Up Day. Which to be fair is we've often done Green Up Day as a cleanup day there. We could
Yeah,
do
but-
that.
Yeah.
Or is that too conflicty?
No, that's fine. I mean, if that's, I'm just saying that it wouldn't have to be that early if in the month. It could be, another day if folks are wanting to participate in Green Up in the traditional way.
Any thoughts anyone has?
Once you have a date, I'll do the best I can to schedule around it. Weekends are toss-ups, but we'll see what
Yep.
see what you end up with. And excuse me, I definitely want to help out. And then, like I said, I'm offering the truck and the trailer if it's needed.
Cool.
So then, Alex, you guys are
Any weekend.
any thoughts? I know it's like no one's traveling, nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, do you want to do like the May 1st or May 8th? Would it be better to not be Green Up Day?
Yeah, how about May 8th?
Okay. May 8th. Okay, let's just pencil that in. We'll have, oh wait, our next meeting actually will be the 13th. So this is but we can always email about if changing the date or whatever. I think that'd be okay, right?
Yeah.
It's not like an official meeting or anything.
Mhm.
Did you say that this was at Eagle Park? Which park is this?
Yeah, Eagle Park.
Yeah, so when you go to Eagle Park, there's this little gravel area you can park in, and then you can run down like around the sort of rocks by the kiosk, and then there's just this little path that goes to the fishing platform. And then right there where you can see your car up the hill, that hillside, there's a little perennial garden there that has been taken care of every year by the Conservation Commission, but not last year because we said, oh, we'll fix the platform first, and it's COVID. Then it didn't get fixed, and then it was also COVID, and so now we need to deal with it.
Yeah, and it's fairly straightforward. It's just a little weeding and pulling up of dead stuff and laying down of new mulch. So
Yeah.
With many hands, it makes light work. So
Yeah, we usually spend a couple hours or something.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. Okay, yeah, and then maybe we can email too about the weather or like how we're feeling closer to that date. But let's pencil in the 8th in the morning.
Okay.
Cool. That sounds great.
Oh, I heard May 8th at 8 in the morning.
9.
8? 8's awful early.
9.
How's
9?
9? Yeah, 9 would be
9?
better.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't get 2 kids dressed and breakfast by 8. That's just not possible. Okay, so that sounds great. I think that's anything else, new business, events. Nothing's happening. Our next meeting is May 10th. I just said it was a totally different date. Did I type that wrong? I did. I think it should be the 13th, right? Thursday the 13th. Okay, so that's wrong on the agenda. So it's the 13th, not to confuse anyone. Okay, that's good. And then do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned.
Oh, and welcome to Helen. Hi, Helen.